All right, everyone, welcome. It is about 7 o'clock on June 6, 2024. We are here in room 206 of Town Hall for a Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing and then general meeting. So we will kick it off with the public hearing. The first item on the agenda is the proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 5-2024, PL 2469, put forth by Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. The proposal to amend section 210 to include two new definitional regulations for cannabis and cannabis establishments, and to delete existing section 1134, palliative marijuana dispensaries and production facilities, and replace it with a new section 1134, prohibiting cannabis establishments within the town. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendment is on file and available at the Town Clerk's office and in the Planning and Zoning office for inspection and online at DarienCTViewpointCloud.com as PL-24-69. Fred, what do we have here?
Adam, as you mentioned, this zoning regulation amendment is being put forth by the Planning and Zoning Commission to prohibit cannabis establishments in town. The application was referred out to the Fire Marshal's office. We received comments back from Fire Marshal Bob Bush on May 7th, noting no comment for the application. We also referred the application out to the police department and received a comments from the police chief dated June 4th. The chief of police, Mr. Marin, is in support of the proposal. The application was also referred out to Western Connecticut Council of Governments. They submitted an email for the record dated May 7th, noting no comment for the record. And it was also referred out to Connecticut Deep. We received comments back from Deep on June 6th, also noting no comment for the record. Several public comments, or I should say one public comment was received from a resident of the town, Miss Lou, in support of the proposal. And First Selectman John Zagrotsky also submitted a comment for the record, or letter for the record, dated, let's see,
June 5th.
June 5th. Thank you, Jeremy. June 5th, also in support of the proposal. So the Planning and Zoning Commission put this regulation amendment forth relative to recent state legislation that was put forth by the legislature and signed into law to allow communities to allow the recreational sale of marijuana in municipalities. This zoning regulation amendment would amend section 1134, which now exists relative to palliative marijuana dispensaries related to medical marijuana. The commission adopted a moratorium in 2014 to disallow marijuana dispensaries at that time. This regulation amendment is superseding that section 1134, so the amendments being put forth will replace section 1134 altogether. The application is consistent with the town plan of conservation and development, that it protects the health, safety, and welfare of its residents. The amendment is adding two new definitions to section 210 of the regulations. The first definition is for cannabis, which is defined as marijuana as defined in section 21A-240 of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended from time to time. And the second definition is for a cannabis establishment, which is defined as a producer, dispensary facility, cultivator, micro-cultivator, retailer, hybrid retailer, food and beverage manufacturer, product manufacturer, product packager, delivery service, or transporter as defined in section 21A-420 of the Connecticut General Statutes as amended from time to time. And as I mentioned, section 1134 of the regulations will read prohibition on cannabis establishments, and it reads, in accordance with the authority granted by section 21-422F, all cannabis establishments are prohibited in all zoning districts in the town of Darien. That's all we have.
Okay, great, thank you, yes. And those definitions are in section 210. That's perfect, that's exactly what it is, so we're simplifying it, we're removing all of 1134, and we're adding in basically that one sentence outlawing them across town. This being a general meeting, before I open it up to the commission for comments, would anyone from the general public like to speak to this proposed regulation change? Sir, welcome. Please step up to the podium, say your name and affiliation.
My name is Mark Sticka. I'm a resident here in Darien.
And what's your address, Mark?
44 Herman Avenue.
44 Herman, thank you.
Probably, thank you. I commend the board on their not caving into what has become a debacle for the state of Connecticut. And I can say this from a point of experience. I'm a retired Connecticut State Police captain. I was formerly the commanding officer of the Connecticut Statewide Narcotics Task Force. I am currently a member emeritus of the National Alliance of State Drug Enforcement Agencies. I go to a semi-annual conference, which will be occurring this weekend, coincidentally. Probably the reason I am a former commander at the Statewide Narcotics Task Force is because of my support of maintaining marijuana as a dangerous drug, especially as it relates to cannabis as it is proposed and it is packaged right now. It is, as you keenly stated, is a matter of public safety, health, and welfare. These products, make no mistake, are targeted towards children. They are marketed towards children. They are marketed in the same way that big tobacco was marketed in the 80s and 90s. And the backing, coincidentally, for most of this marijuana, whether it's recreational or medical, is just a shift of the paradigm from the big tobacco companies who are funding these initiatives to put this out there, get the general public hooked on yet another thing so that they can make profits. My first personal experience was going to the 2015 National Marijuana Summit, which was held coincidentally in Denver, Colorado. We saw what Denver turned into because of that. It's only gotten worse in the last 9 years. The results of this legalization, this liberal acceptance of drugs in general within the state has been reflected in the numerous driving while intoxicated, driving while under the influence, wrong way drivers, and the loss of a Connecticut state trooper last week. I commend your efforts for keeping our town clear of this scourge, and I would make myself available for any and all information that you may need, any backing that you may need from a position of experience. I'm still consulting and still doing police certification in the areas of drug enforcement, drug identification. And again, kudos to you for not falling for the propaganda that's out there that is saying that marijuana, medical, recreational, otherwise, is anything but unsafe for the general public. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Would anyone else from the general public like to speak to this proposed zoning change? Seeing none?
If I could,
Jeremy?
one thing I forgot to mention is, as part of this application, we really tried to get the word out to folks, and you'll see that with the next application as well. We used the town newsletter, which comes out from the first selectman's office. There was articles in the local newspaper. It was on Facebook, Instagram as well. Legal notice was in the paper, both the Stamford Advocate and the Darien Times. So we wanted to get word out, so even though there's very few people here today, we've got a handful of letters from Ms. Liu and the first selectman and the police chief, but we did make an effort to get the word out to people on this.
And we have discussed these changes before in prior meetings as well,
That's correct.
which were also available to the public. Okay, great. So I will open it up to the commission. I guess I will start on we'll go left to right. Amy?
I am 100% for it, for all the reasons we've discussed, for all the reasons we've enumerated before. I'm happy to dive into more details if we needed, but I think we've exhausted the record on it, and I'm in support.
Great. George?
I agree. I gave some thought to the fact that we are going contrary to the state legislature and what it has permitted folks to do in this state. But ultimately, they did give us the opportunity to opt out, and I see no particular public sentiment in favor of it. So I'm good with prohibiting it.
Okay. Mike?
I just, the resident that spoke, just thank you for your service to the state and thank you for getting up here and speaking. I really don't have anything further to add. I think it's, we're headed in the right direction.
Okay, great.
I'm fully in support of the proposal.
All right. I know we had some late entrance to the meeting. This is the public hearing about the proposed changes for marijuana. Are you here for that? Or would you like to speak to it, or no?
No, we're here for Supr Foods.
Okay, perfect. No worries. Just making sure everybody has the chance to speak, even some people, it's only 12, 13 after. So, okay, well, I don't see anyone else here, so I will make a motion to approve the zoning.
No, you're going to close the hearing.
Oh, yes. I need a motion to close the hearing. Mike makes a motion.
Yep.
Amy makes second. All those in favor? Okay, hearing closed. Sorry. We are moving on to our second amendment change of the night. The proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR 4-2024, PL 24-70, put forth by the Darien Planning and Zoning Commission. Proposal to create a new section 367 regulating the placement of fuel storage tanks. If a tank is to be placed in the front of a residence or commercial building, it must be underground. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendment is on file and available in the Town Clerk's office and the Planning and Zoning Office for inspection, and online at DarienCTViewpointCloud.com as PL 24-70. Fred, what do we got for the above ground storage containers?
Yeah, this regulation amendment being put forth by the Planning and Zoning Commission is intended to not allow fuel storage tanks to be located above ground in front of residential and commercial properties within town. The application was referred out to the fire marshal's office, and we did receive comments back from Fire Marshal Bob Bush on May 7th. He recommended several fairly minor changes to the regulations as were written relative to the fill pipe and cap, as well as that was his main comment relative to the fill pipe and cap. The application was also referred out to the Western Connecticut Council of Governments. We received comments back from WestCog on May 7th, noting they have no comments for the record. The application was also referred out to Connecticut Deep. We received comments from Connecticut Deep today on the 11th, in which they note the office has reviewed the amendments for consistency with the policies and standards of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, and we find that the proposed amendments are consistent. The application was also referred out to the City of Stamford, Norwalk, and New Canaan. We did not receive any comments back from those towns or the City of Stamford. So the proposal specifically is to clarify that above-ground fuel storage tanks must meet the applicable setback for the zone they are in, and 2, to establish a new standard. New above-ground fuel storage tanks cannot be placed in front of a principal residence or commercial building. If a tank is to be placed in the front of a residence or commercial building, it must be underground. The proposal also clarifies where underground tanks can be located, regulated by the building code only and not the setbacks found within the zoning regulations. No zoning setbacks would apply to underground tanks. The proposal also makes it clear that all tanks must comply with the flood damage prevention regulations and the inland wetland and watercourse regulations. The Commission has found that the proposed amendments are in fact consistent with the 2016 Town Plan of Conservation and Development. The Commission specifically notes page 169 relative to updating the zoning regulations to implement strategies, policies, and action steps in the Plan of Conservation and Development. So section 367 is going to be implemented in the zoning regulations if adopted by the Commission. The section 367 is titled Fuel Storage Tanks. And there's new subsections A through D, which match the previous proposal that I just read into the record. Are there any questions that the Commission has?
I don't think so at this point. Since this is a public hearing, I'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak towards these proposed zoning changes regarding fuel storage tanks? Seeing none,
Yep.
I will open up to the Commission for any additional comments. We've discussed this before.
Yep, I'm good.
I think these incorporate that well. Mr. Riley?
I'm concerned about the definition of side yard. And I'm looking in the regs right now, but maybe you can help me out with that. Where does the front begin and where does the side yard end, or vice versa? I
Right.
guess?
Well, we define the front as being along the road. So you might have a typical rectangular shaped lot that the road is very obvious where it is. You might be on a corner where you have 2 front yards.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
what as we've tossed around this idea, we talked about, what if someone's on a corner? How would we treat it? And so the wording is very specific. It has to be, can't be in front of the house. So that way, no matter which way the house faces, the back, the front, that it would have to be to the side of. So the front yard is the setback, is the property line rather, that touches the road. The side is usually, but not always, perpendicular to that and touches the road at one point. The rear setback is neither a front and does not touch the front.
Okay.
So if you have a rectangular lot, it's very easy to understand, but if you have a lot that has many different angles, the one that is along the road is the front, the ones that touch the road at one point are sides, everything else is a rear,
Okay.
relative to setbacks.
Okay.
But again, here, everything is related to the house.
Right.
So your house could be way set back off the road, 200 feet off the road, but the tank still needs to be not in front of the house. So that is the other thing, is you could be, you could be a rear lot, no one could see your house from anywhere. The tank still needs to be not in front of the house.
Right. So you would draw a line from the forwardmost portion of a house
Correct?
to the side boundary.
Yeah, an invisible line, so to speak.
And any tank would have to be behind that line.
That's correct. I think that's a good way to describe it.
They can have the tank in the front, but then
Has
it's
to be underground.
buried.
They get buried, yeah.
Yeah.
I just, I don't want to make any trouble anywhere. And the one I'm thinking of would be grandfathered.
Yes,
That's
a
the other
good
point,
George.
is, what
Excellent
about
point.
existing ones?
The existing ones that are in front of the houses, and most people who've spoken to me about this have acknowledged, there are not many in town that are in front. But there are a handful in town, and those certainly would be grandfathered. The town has enough, hopefully, paperwork and air photos to show what was there through time. If it's been permitted, we have a document showing where it's been approved. There are cases where, if you're in the flood zone, for example, you would have to either bury it and strap it down to meet the flood regulations, get an engineer to certify the strapping, or elevate the tank to be at least 1 foot above the base flood on a platform approved by the building department.
And if for some reason there was a hardship, a homeowner came forward and said there was a true hardship as to why they could not meet this regulation, they would still have the zoning board of appeals as a
relief.
at their disposal of relief to appeal to.
Right, if you have, say, a lot of wetlands somewhere,
Yeah.
or you might have the service person for the oil or propane saying,
Yeah.
we cannot reach it where
Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
put it.
yeah.
We did email numerous service providers as part of this, and I've carefully learned today that if you BCC people, it's very difficult to print out exactly who you BCC. But I did Suburban Propane, Sound Energy, Galt, Casey Energy, Levco, Hocon. We tried to reach out to those folks to say, this is coming. Certainly, we would want to, if the commission were to adopt something, we'd want to give them a little lead time to allow the people they may be working with now to get those last few. But again, we hardly see any that are in front. So whatever effective date, if the commission were to adopt something, give us time to continue to publicize it, reach out to people, again, through the newsletter, Facebook, whatever it might be, and let people know.
Just one more thing, I don't think I've known us to do it, but screening. Could we require screening if it is obvious from the public highway?
We have talked about that. I know I think we spoke with Steve about the pros and cons of screening. Right now, the town, for example, says recreational vehicles such as boats must be screened from view. And that has proven to be a little tricky because, as you know from the Blight Commission, what does screening mean? For some people, they would say, well, that's great. Other people, well, if I tilt my head and look out the window and crane my neck, I can kind of see it. So when we discussed it informally, Steve said, put it forth like this. Let's see what kind of response we get. That certainly is a possibility.
All right, well, that's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yep, certainly potential.
Mike?
Replacement of grandfathered units, is that going to be required to conform, or what's the plan there?
It's interesting because we talk about nonconformities quite often in our office.
Right.
And for example, when the commission made its rule about fences, right? You can only have a 4-foot fence in the front yard. Well, some people had 6-foot fences, and fences don't last forever. They last about 10 years, and then they, wind or rain or whatever, they just. So we said, if you have a 6-foot fence that's grandfathered in, you can replace it with a 6-foot fence, even though it's not conforming. We could certainly clarify that here, or do it more at the staff level, saying, okay, if you have an above-ground tank, you're grandfathered in with that tank, and even though the just like the fences, tanks don't last forever, and it's
Right.
probably in the best interest to replace your tank every, I don't know how many years, 10, 15, who knows, that would be grandfathered in to allow those to be maintained, if you will, for safety reasons.
And then I had another one. Oh, just so the commission's aware, right, when you bury a tank, a portion of it's still
Above.
above,
That's
And
the
that-
cap.
above grade.
That's what
which is
Bobby
the cap.
wanted to make clear. I think
Yeah.
that was a great comment.
Yeah, okay, I'm good.
Jamie?
My questions have been answered, thank you.
The only question I have, are we requiring a minimum distance back from the side of the house, or can they go 1 inch from the side of the house and then
Those
stick it
zones
there?
already
That'll be building
exist.
code.
Those building codes already exist.
What is,
Uh,
is that covered
I
by the
don't know if
building
there's
code?
a distance necessarily from the side of the house.
There are usually codes around that can't be within, under certain windows. Like,
That's
it has to be
correct.
within a distance from a window, it has, there are building
Oh, yes.
codes. Not zoning codes,
Right.
but building codes on
So
safety.
if you have the side of your
Yeah.
house, you can put it 1 inch, as long
In.
as Amy said,
Yeah.
there's not a window
Yeah.
there.
There,
Cer-
And
yeah.
it's unlikely you're gonna have a window that close to the edge of your house,
right.
but Amy's right, it can't be under a window, and it can't be too close to other things.
Sure.
It can't be in a corner or like a notch, I don't think. There has to be
Yeah.
certain amounts of ventilation
Yeah.
and circulation
Yeah.
around the tank.
So, yeah. and
But still. Okay, well, I think that covers it. So, do I have a motion to close the hearing? Amy makes a motion, Jamie makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay, great. We will take that up. All right, so now we are moving into the general meeting. That concludes our public hearing for the night. So the first item on the agenda in the general meeting, and only item, is 205 Boston Post Road, 205 Post Road Development Partners, Supr Foods Drive-Thru Restaurant. This is a proposal to reopen the existing drive-thru restaurant under a new name. Interior and exterior renovations are being proposed to the building. Brad, George, what do we got?
Who's being blamed for being joined?
I'm sorry, Fred. And what do we got, guys?
Yeah, so the commission is seeing this tonight relative to a July 30th, 2019 approval by the commission relative to Palm Foods LLC at that time. Condition E of that 2019 approval requires that if in the future a new tenant for the building at 205 Boston Post Road is to occupy that space, that they must come back before the Planning and Zoning Commission for approvals. Because this new restaurant is proposing very minor changes to the interior and exterior of the building relative to new kitchen equipment, new paint on the exterior of the building. No other physical changes are being made to the building. The applicant provided some information relative to questions emailed to them from staff regarding hours of operation, number of employees on the site, the ordering and use and operation of the business. The business operators are here this evening to describe to you the specific changes that are being made and the nature and operation of their business.
Welcome.
Good
Evening.
evening, Christian Fry, the architect of the project. Fausto Miura, CEO of the company.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're getting a new restaurant at the old Blue Wave Taco, right?
That is correct,
Yes.
yeah.
So what's the plan here? We saw your, you want to just give us a quick summary overview of what the changes are and everything?
Well, as you mentioned before, I mean, it's just very minor. Some kitchen equipment is changing around, replacing one unit with like a newer unit, or, you know, minor things like that on the interior. The kitchen's already there. And on the outside of the building, we've been before the ARB, and I think we're pretty close there now. They like what is being proposed, and we gave them renderings of the building all the way around, showing that we're doing a sort of a white and green theme to go with the new logo and the, you know, the corporate colors,
Okay.
to just sort of and give that building a little bit of a pop too, because it's a tiny little building, and
Right.
when you go by there at like, I mean, the speed limit I think is 40, but everybody goes by there at like 60 or something. You kind of want to see the building. So that's the concept there.
Okay.
That's the only change really. And some new signage, obviously.
And you're gonna be open 7 days a week, or
7 days a week, yeah.
7 days a week? Okay, perfect.
Still operating as a drive-through, so there's no
No
need for
seating, no-
parking, no
Yeah.
No parking, right.
seating, no, yeah.
There's no
Because
room
that
for
site
parking,
obviously is
basically.
limited in
Yeah.
its ability to house additional cars,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah.
So how will the pickup work? So I saw you're gonna have an app for pickup, and I assume there'll be like the Uber Eats and the DoorDashes coming in. So how is that gonna work? Is there a way?
So there's a second lane. It's been there since we built Palmwich. On the other side where the windows are, they pull up and they're visible. You'll see them, there'll be signage too. And
Okay.
then one of our staff members will go out, hand
Drop the
bag.
stuff off. So they're not getting out of their car and coming
No.
inside, it's somebody going out
Yeah,
and putting it in?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That was sort of my one question. Are they going in or parking, even for a minute and coming back or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, basically just swapping out something new there. I mean, that place has been vacant for a while, so I think we're excited for some new options in that area too. And your menu looks like it's a pretty extensive menu with a bunch of options for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that's good too. Well, I'll open it up to the commission for any questions. It's a general meeting, so there's no one from the public here. I don't think there's anyone from the public that wants to speak to this anyway. Amy?
My concern was just making sure that, it was consistent with the original approval, which it sounds to be, as far as the traffic of patterns coming and going in that limited space, and I'm satisfied that it is.
Okay. Jeremy? I mean, George?
Jeremy,
See what I did there?
You're very cute, yes. Just quickly, how many staff do you expect to be working inside at any given time?
So, I mean, we'll say 5 when we're busy. We still need to go through the whole training process, testing the product, after the building approval. But I would say not more than 5. There's not enough room for more than 5 people in there anyways.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's room for 5, but if you say so, and I guess the Board of Health has approved that too. And I'm just looking at your egress plan here. I only see actually one dotted line that seems to go outside. Where are the actual egress points?
There's basically the door out of the rear of the
Another
building.
door? I don't see a door. Out of the.
There's the one in the
There's
back.
the front, there's a back door, which I guess is that.
Yeah,
And then there's the side door, isn't that? That's not a door, is it?
no, there is that one door out of the back,
Oh, just the one door?
just the one door, yeah.
Okay. Okay. But you'll have the requisite sprinkler system in there. I know you probably already do, don't you?
I can't recall if it is sprinklered in there, but I don't think so, but,
Inside the building?
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's a sprinkler, oh, there is.
There's,
Fire
yeah,
department,
there's
once
an
you get
answer
a
system.
Yeah.
We'll have to go through the
And there's
whole
Ansel, yeah, too.
approval too
Yeah.
after, we have to go through inspection.
Yeah, they would let
Right,
you
they're in the
have
process of getting a building permit, so once you guys, if you do give the go-ahead,
they'll come to the
Then all
building.
those
Yeah.
questions get,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I'd like to say that works. Good.
Mike?
I'm good.
Jamie?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with me. So this is just a general meeting, so do we need to vote to close this? Can we just vote on this?
you can just vote on it
That's
with,
what I thought. Yeah. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve as submitted? Amy makes second. Anybody? Mike makes second. All those in favor? 5-0. Got it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
thanks so much.
Yep. Good luck.
Okay, moving on to the general meeting. Deliberations only on any public hearing items closed on June 11th, 2024. It's only 7:34, so we might as well deliberate on the first item unless anybody has somewhere else. No? Good. So the proposed amendments for the prohibition of cannabis and cannabis establishments in town. I think we did a great job, ironing these out over the spring. I think the amendment really clarifies section 1134 and simplifies it to make it very black and white,
Yes.
which I think is our goal here. Even though it's not stated, it's always simpler and more specific is better than vague and more general. So I think that certainly does it. It's certainly in accordance with the town plan. So I see no reason not to approve as we've drafted. Amy, any issues?
I'm all for it, 100%.
Okay. George?
Good.
Mike?
Good.
Okay, sounds
We'll
good.
draft something up for the 25th.
25th?
and
Perfect.
Official vote at the time.
Okay. Moving on to our second item, might as well deliberate on the above-ground fuel storage tank prohibition as well. We talked about this as well in the same manner over the spring. Staff came up with some pretty good, regulations about these. We want to certainly try and minimize these going forward, just as a matter of principle, and certainly as time goes on, you're going to see more tanks coming in as people pull out oil burners and put in propane-based ones, because those are the only ones that will get the state energy certification tax credits. So they're really nudging everyone in Connecticut to rip out diesel and put in nat gas, or in our case in town, the propane. So I think it's good that we get in front of this, because we're only going to see more and more of these as time goes on. So yeah, Amy, any further comments to these?
I don't think people set out to aesthetically accomplish putting a tank in their front yard. So I don't anticipate us getting a lot of requests to do otherwise. So I'm 100% for this.
Yeah, I
Makes
think-
sense to me.
I think the big thing is that,
And if there is an extenuating circumstance.
Yeah, they can go to
around
ZBA.
wetlands, ledge, things of that nature that would require this to be the only remedy, they certainly have the appeals process at their disposal.
yeah, and I think we just need to make sure, I know that Jeremy has already done it, but really get the service providers to know about this, because those guys come, you might not be home, they just throw a couple tanks in wherever it's closest to put a line into your basement. And so as long as they're aware
Well,
of
it's
it.
also, you also need a permit to install.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as Adam said, they always want a convenient spot, especially the
Yeah.
guys who are out there servicing. But yes, people are supposed to get permits
Yeah.
for
They
these,
should,
so.
they should be getting permits.
So it's
for
a good
this.
way to get, as you said, publicize not only the need for
Yeah.
permits, but here's the new
And as a public
regulation.
service announcement, get your permits, because when you go to sell your house, it's gonna
Yes.
come back and bite you, so
Yes,
get
you
your
see that all
permits.
the time, all the time.
Do they need a permit when one is replaced, like we were talking about before, if it was grandfather? Yep, I thought, that's much better.
Yep.
George?
All of that,
Mike?
All
Good.
good.
Jamie?
Good, thank you.
Perfect. All right, so we will, sounds like the straw poll is in favor of this one as well, same thing.
Staff to draft. Got
Staff
it.
to draft, 25th, you said?
Yep, June 20, 2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight, we will have a vote on it. Okay, well, that concludes that for the two items we had tonight. So now it's just going through minutes. Do we want to look at April 23rd's minutes? These were a set of older minutes. I think everyone, everyone was here. So this is where we had the initial migration of Coke Champ, which never came to see us. The next thing we saw was the special application for Board of Ed. These were the buses going into Thorndale. Then we saw the second special ed over at Leroy. Then we saw the Hanson Road Bridge over by Weburn for the first time, and it also looked at Shady Acres, which was just a pool. We've already approved most of these. This is an old one. I think this is the first time we saw 224 Long Neck, that very large excavation, and the, I'll say, very small pool house that they're putting in there. That was 3,000, 4,000 square feet. Yeah, right. That's about it. I think Chairman Mulvaney joined us kind of late. We looked at 30 Lake, which was a lift, and we've already approved that. And we saw 23 Old Stone Road 2, which is just an addition. Went into the general meeting where we did the referrals, which we noted were not a requirement before we could get the applications in. And that was basically it. We approved some minutes. Mulvaney read a chairman's report. Did anybody see Scribner's errors? Any comments to make in this one from reading through it? Anyone? Speak
Nope.
now or forever hold their peace.
Well done.
Good. Do I have a motion to approve as submitted? Anybody on this? Mike makes a motion. Anybody make a second?
Sure.
George makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Great. Okay, we have for the second set of meetings, June 4th. This is last week, right? Yep. We noticed some typos, and Fred resubmitted the amended version of it, which was emailed out yesterday, so I trusted you. Yeah, so I think a couple things on page 2. Looking at this one was 2 weeks ago. It was pretty quick. We saw Tokenique Trail. This is the one where they're putting in that very canyon-like driveway down on the corner there with the next to the bridge by Arrowhead. We heard the gentleman from the Tokenique Association and we saw his pool on the TV. Went into a general meeting where we deliberated the fire department's new retaining wall. That's going to be great. It's made out of wood and falling apart. We adopted the resolution for the fire department. I can't change that. We went through. We have the resolution for, what was this one? This is 70 Nerone Avenue. This was just a new stone retaining wall. Can't change that. And we saw another resolution for 50 Holly. Can't change that. That was approved. We also saw some minutes and another chairman's report. Based on the second draft that Jeremy sent out, does anybody have any further amendments, comments, Scribner's errors, typos, semicolons out of place? I didn't see anything either.
And then there were done.
No? Okay.
He didn't see him.
Yep. Do I have a motion to approve as amended? Jamie makes a motion?
Yep.
Amy makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0.
I'm
Minutes approved.
abstaining, I think, on that one.
Yep, I wasn't there.
4-0, 1 abstention, and that's correct. You were not here. And that will be that. So, moving forward on our agenda, chairman's report. Our chairman is not here. I have nothing to add except that's it. Nothing to add, really. Director's report. Jeremy,
Sure.
anything?
Fred and I spoke with the Board of Realtors, what was it, last Wednesday, over at Haven. That worked out really well, some really good questions, a lot of good back and forth. Of course, right before we spoke, Monica McNally spoke to the brokers about Great Island, so that also drew a lot of interest from brokers. We are likely to start seeing applications for ADUs. We've met with, I think, 3 or 4 different people. We're scheduled to meet with someone else tomorrow. So folks are showing interest. I do have one person that's likely, that I know of, to pull together an application. Seems at this point they meet all the requirements, but they're still working on some drawings, so that's good.
So that would be on a sub R1 ADU? Because those are the only ones we see, right?
Right, and they're gonna have to, we're working on a checklist that they can check off how they meet everything, and that instruction forms, we're gonna get those out to the town website.
Perfect.
Probably next week sometime. Other than that, fairly quiet.
Okay. Great. All right, so there's no other business that we want to vote to go into, so do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You want to do upcoming meetings?
Oh, do we want to do upcoming meetings? Sure. June 5th, July 9th?
June
June
25th
25th.
is 4 public hearings.
I will not be here.
Amy's not going to be here. 2 of them are related to the property next to Great Island. One is for landscaping and one is to, I'll call it, renovate the barn that's been there for well over 100 years. It's more than a barn, it's a pretty big building. We have an application for a dock and an application for, you may recall, 23 Tokenique Trail, the driveway that's going through the ledge that you're going to be deciding on the 25th. This is for the property next to that, to develop that property.
The subdivided property?
Subdivided property. That's on the 25th. And then we'll have draft resolutions for what we've heard tonight. And then a week off for July 4th week, and then back on July 9th, with the main public hearing being the proposed regulation and map amendments for Thorndale Circle. And George will likely get the night off, or a good portion of the night off.
Oh, come on. Not the whole thing. Okay, fine.
We'll try, George.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, anybody
I'm gonna let you have
wants
the
to
honors.
make a motion to adjourn the hearing? Seeing Mike makes a motion. Anyone, any second? I see no seconds. I see none. I see George makes a second.
Oh, well.
All those in
okay.
favor?
Hate to deprive Amy, but.
Wow.
Meeting
is it a
adjourned,
record?
7:45.
Yeah,
Not
good.
quite a record, but.